Good afternoon, this is Mark at the Wicked Edge Expert Corner Group YouTube channel and Facebook group. And I want to thank Into Deep 21 for a question he posted in the comments for a video that I recently put up on the YouTube channel about hardness. But let me go with this, please. Bear with me. He said, "Are you saying?" So this playlist episode, video conversation, is that, are you saying? That's me. That's what drove me to get to this point that I have this opportunity to sit here and talk to, hopefully, a group of knife sharpening enthusiasts like myself that ask questions that a lot of people think about and say, "Are you saying?" You see, I started sharpening and then, please bear with me, the chicken or the egg. You know, I made notes trying to stay on track for a change. Which was first, Wicked Edge or knife sharpening? Well, for me, it was knife sharpening. And it's knife sharpening for everybody. But a lot of us don't ever get it till we try to buy a sharpener that's going to get it for us. Like the Lamborghini or the Maserati or the Ferrari or the Wicked Edge or the TS Prop. We'll talk about that. We'll come back to that. Because when I found Wicked Edge and started looking for the information for myself to learn about what I'm being asked about the hardness with the steel, and we're going to answer that, maybe not in this video, but we're going to answer it. Please bear with me. That led me to search. At the very beginning, when I was just on the forum, and I was going to the kitchen knife forum and the blade forum, because I was trying to learn about steels and knives and angles from knife sharpeners. And I was going to the Wicked Edge forum, trying to learn about how to sharpen those knives that I was trying to figure out which ones to buy from the forums, because I didn't want to buy something I couldn't sharpen. But then I had to come to Wicked Edge to figure out how to sharpen at Wicked Edge. And sharpening knowledge is sharpening knowledge. And it has appeared to me that it's segmented, and it's because we're using different kinds of methods to sharpen. Freehand sharpening and guided sharpening and belt sharpeners and rolling grinder sharpeners and Tormex, but all the theory about the sharpening is the same, but how you do it is different, possibly. Even though you're looking to do the same thing, the nuance, the little way you do it, the do's and don'ts may be different to get the same results. You got to ask someone that is full experience, like to throw names like Cliff Curry, who's used the Wicked Edge, used other guided sharpeners, used grinders, uses belts. I don't know if he ever used freehand sharpening, I would guess so. Or Tom Blodgett from Genda Industries, who does and has used Wicked Edge in his own guided sharpener and belt sharpeners and grinders and all that all the time in his daily business. And they use the abrasives, so they have that body of knowledge, but specifically how we use it in Wicked Edge to get the best results, and specifically how you would use that same abrasive in another sharpening environment may be a little bit different, but we're all using the same abrasives. My point is that the knowledge and how we do things, and I was looking here and there and all over trying to find the answers, and I couldn't find the answers that applied to fixed position guided angle sharpening. I just happened to use Wicked Edge because I just thought the machine was cool, and I bought it and I got it and it worked. Now I had to figure out how to apply that sharpening stuff, and I was looking at all these trying to sharpen harder steel, and how do you sharpen harder steel, because everything that I read the horrors of the do's and the don'ts and the this, and I'm trying to apply the do's and the don'ts to Wicked Edge, which is kept like it's a red-headed stepchild by itself, different than other guided sharpening. And guided sharpening in itself is only a small piece of the pie of all knife sharpening in general. But we all look to use the same information and make sense of it. So, let me see if I can. Are you saying? Are you saying pushes a button for me, because that's what I learned when I was first searching for information on applying the body of sharpening knowledge that is shared about the hardness of steel and the angles and what is best for one situation and how to clamp the knife for the sweet spot. That's stuff that's shared. Even though we don't realize it, how you clamp a knife in a fixed position, it's shared no matter which one it is. We all have to do the same thing, but how we understand it and how we were taught is, are you saying? So I chose to try to make my own group and decipher and boil down so I can understand what people are saying and put it all together so that the body of knowledge is saying what people are saying, and it's a good indication. Right now we have a lot of, I say, innuendo and anecdotal information in our body of sharpening knowledge. And it's not all hard and fast, and a lot of stuff isn't hard and fast. And a lot of it gets passed on as though it's so. And then we buy a Wicked Edge or buy a Edge Pro or whatever, and they have recommendations on what to do to sharpen, and we just follow them, thinking that that's something that has to do with Wicked Edge only. But it's just a device to sharpen knife. We're talking about knife sharpening. I wanted to have the sharpening stuff about the stones, and it's not about the device. You do the same thing. I don't care which device. We're clamping it, setting an angle, and we're putting abrasive across it. I'm about the abrasives and the sharpening and the hardness and the angles and that stuff. I could care less which sharpener you use, whether it's a Ferrari or a Ford. I like this. And I don't necessarily like the best of the best. I like what works best for me. And sometimes it's upgrading a lower model to get the best of the best for me. Anyway, the best we go on forums, we post questions on knife sharpening enthusiasts. What's the best stone? The best this, the best that, the best. The reason that those types of questions, if it's a legitimate question, gets asked is that somebody wants to find out how you did it and got your best results so that they can do it the first time similarly and easily, predictably, hopefully achieve the same results without going through the hard knocks of years of trying to figure out what is the best. And anecdotally, a lot of things that are called the best were what you did one time and it worked good for you. And you only did it that once, but you remember that it was really like the best knife you ever sharpened. So that's your best way. So you share your best way and it gets shared, and the next thing in social media and forums and whatever, we're seeing what is the best way. Well, I saw that, and I would go from forum to the different groups, and I would follow that stuff, and I found sometimes going back many years that stuff that is shared as though it's fact, as it's sharpening gospel rules, that it came from something that was just anecdotal and wasn't really any rule. So the best comes from what I said, aspiring to do something quickly and easy, and I respect that. And if you buy a knife that you think's the best, if you can buy a sharpener and a sharpening method and sharpen that knife the best, good. But who determines the best and how was it determined? And that's what I'm about here. Not about what I do the best, but I'm trying to figure out what is the best for me. And to figure out what is the best for me, I have to understand these different things that I'm trying to figure out here, which is the best way for me to sharpen this particular hardness or that particular hardness steel. And then if I choose to use whetstone, which is the best whetstone, and why is that one the best whetstone? And why whetstones for one hardness steel and not a diamond stone for the same hardness steel? And to get the answers to those questions, the only way that I could figure out to do it was to do it. And that's why I amassed a collection of knives, and many different ones, for instance, in VG10, so that I could have a lot of different samples of the steel, because the different steels by different manufacturers are hardened to different hardnesses, and I don't know who made the steel, if one is better quality than the other. So I'm trying to get enough to make a generalization with some consideration of what is reality, and then standardize it by clamping it and measuring the angle, so I know repeatedly I can sharpen that steel at 15 degrees. And then on different knives made by different people. And hopefully by doing all that, I can, for me, draw some conclusion that lets me try to answer the question, so are you saying you need to use whetstones for hard steels? Could you be a little more specific? What kind of steels would need whetstones? Great question. The whole reason that I made this group was to have a place, to host this body of knowledge, to have this exchange from the different kinds of sharpeners so we can come up with some stuff. To try to answer the question, my experience from what I read, how it was impressed upon me, was that 60 hardness, and the 60 hardness is on the Rockwell C hardness scale, and what the hardness represents is a test that's made that takes the knife and clamps it, and it's like a punch from what I understand, and it mechanically pushes into the steel and somehow tests how hard or resilient it is against that punch, and that's a standardized test for Rockwell C. And then how hard it gets charted, and that's what puts it in the different hardnesses that are described. I don't know how low the numbers go, maybe 54 or 55. I've only seen, I think, 55 or 56 on a Rockwell C. That's called HR with a C for hardness Rockwell C. The lowest number I've ever seen is about 55 or 56 when you read how knives are described in their hardness specification. The hardest steels that I've ever seen suggested maybe 67 hardness on the same scale. Maybe stories about 68 hardness on some real special steels from like CPM. So that in itself is sharing information that a lot of people don't really know, that it's a range. I don't know how low it goes, and because maybe too low is not suitable to make a knife. And too high, we haven't achieved it yet, because what happens when we try to get those steels real hard? They get brittle, they break, they may cut really like a razor blade, but they're too hard to break, too hard to work with. If you hit a bone or something, they'll break, they chip out, and they're hard to sharpen. And how they're made, created, is like horticulture. It's like growing making prize flowers or breeding dogs. You mix, it's mixed in a crucible of powders, but we know what adds a little hardness and what adds a little resilience and what adds a little corrosion resistance and what adds, and all these things are what is being used in the industry today to create new steels of new hardness, to have better qualities based on the old original steels that were recorded with the Rockwell scale and their qualities. Their qualities were recorded by people who bought the steels and used them, like you and me. And we tried to sharpen them with whatever method we were using. And we shared about it. Lots and lots of people. And that's how the body of knowledge was shared stuff about whatever sharpening method. And that's how we gained this current body of knowledge about sharpening soft steels versus hard steels. And it's not like a cookbook. It's not a recipe. It's not for sure, because the body of knowledge is gained by a lot of anecdotal type of innuendo type of sharing and all of that. So that's why I'm trying to make sense of it and do it with some sort of forethought, utilizing the body of knowledge that I've spent the last 10 years of my life reading and studying, trying to assimilate. So that's what I aspire to do here, is to host these exchanges of conversation while I play with my wicked edge sharpeners and chase that body of knowledge for myself and share about it. And invite other people to come here. Because, back to are you saying, I spent so much time on the forums and written trying to understand what the poster was saying so that I could answer them, because what they were saying and what I was understanding and what others were understanding really wasn't what they necessarily were meaning to say. So figuring it out was half of the battle in order to answer a person's question, because you would say something, say something, say something. I give you a real quick story. Guy was posting on the Wicked Edge forum how to sharpen his plane. I was helping, suggesting how to clamp at the angle. Someone else was suggesting how to clamp at the angle. Back and forth, a thread, get down on the bottom. Plane, planer. It's a planer, not a plane blade. They're both planers. It wasn't a hand plane with the plane blade. It was an electric planer blade. Oh, that's very different. Like Emily Littella. Never mind. You don't necessarily, I didn't necessarily, and I saw a lot of people in what I read and I exchanged that there was a problem understanding what someone was sharing, trying to get the answer to. So I decided that I'm going to demonstrate, discuss, and share what I know so that it's clear. And then invite the exchange so that we can build this body of knowledge. So, I'm going to stop here because I want to answer the question, and I think I said enough. Thanks.